I like to write books with just the through line of being funny, in my opinion. You know, I think it's really good to be able to laugh loudly and often. And I really like to laugh, even though most of the things that make me laugh are probably not funny to anyone else. So I really like to put in my stories all the crazy things that I do and that my friends do and the things I kind of subject myself to people. You know, I play a lot of jokes on people at my show, and I'm constantly like trying to figure out how to get into people's emails and send emails like, oh my God, I'm pregnant, Mom. I know I've only been dating this guy for a couple of weeks, but I think this is going to be perfect. You know, like I like to do things to screw with people. That gives me a lot of pleasure. And I'm not sure why. People may say it's demonic, but I just believe that it's really good to have a laugh at the expense of others. So a lot of these books and my stories, they're all true. They all happen. My life is a little ridiculous. My father's ridiculous. He is dating his 20-year-old Jamaican cleaning lady. They're in a relationship. So I'm going to write about that. And then I'm going to write about, you know, me discovering masturbation when I was 7 because it was ridiculous that I was doing it all the time, every day after school, and thinking that nobody knew what I was doing. So anything that's self-deprecating I like. You know, now my living on my TV show is making fun of other people. So I think it's always important to make fun of yourself first and be able to be the butt of the joke, because I believe that I truly am the butt of the joke. I moved to California when I was 19 years old, and I was in the hopes that I would become famous for not really sure what, just anything. I wanted to just people to know who I was because I thought that I had a lot to say and I wanted people to listen. And coming from a big family of 6 kids, nobody really was interested in anything I was saying. I envisioned myself being an actress, and then I kind of moved to California and realized I went on several auditions for commercials or for, you know, dumb blonde girls, and I was just thinking to myself, this is so stupid. I don't want, you know, to be, you know, auditioning for a Prel commercial or a Reebok commercial. Like, that's not what I meant when I wanted to say something. I really wanted to express myself. So after kind of a couple of years of going through the motions of trying to get an agent and going on auditions and realizing that all the girls, there's always somebody that's prettier and skinnier, and I really just tried to think about what my best quality was, and I couldn't come up with anything. And so I decided that I kind of always thought I was funny, but a lot of people didn't. And then I thought if I could just get a couple more people to think that I'm funny, because I was very loud and I was very outspoken. And so speaking to more, by getting to know people in LA and kind of hanging out with different creative types, stand-up comedy kind of was thrown around. People would say, you know, you should do that, or you should do stand-up. And the thought just was really frightening for me to have to present myself on a stage and, you know, wait for people to laugh or expect them to laugh. But I somehow managed to make myself do that over a long period of deliberation. And several margaritas I had to drink to get myself on that stage. And then I just kind of felt the first time I did it like, wow, no one can interrupt me because I have a microphone, and no one is yelling at me or interrupting me. And I liked that. When Are You There Vodka hit #1 on the New York Times list, I remember my editor called me because the first book came on the New York Times list after the second book. It became more popular after the success of Are You There Vodka. But my editor at the time called me and she said, "Do you want to know what number you are on the New York Times list?" And I was like, "Yes." And she said 1. And I said, 11? And she said 1. And I'm like, 11 minus 1? She's like, no, 1, the number 1. And I don't know why I couldn't compute that I was number 1. I was like, this is ridiculous. But it was amazing. And then I called my boyfriend at the time, who I called my sister. She goes, "That's not possible." "That's not possible." I go, "It's #1. And she's like, "No, it's not. That's not possible." And I was like, "Forget you." So then I called my boyfriend, and he was on one phone crying. And I called my dad, and he was on one phone crying. And they were both crying on the phone at the same time. And I was like, this is the pinnacle of my career, to have 2 grown men crying at the same time. If people complain about being in the book, I usually just end the friendship. And a lot of times, I'll mix characters together so that it's not necessarily one person. Now that it's been the 3rd book, there are characters that kind of have come to life, and you know. But sometimes, like, I'll take 3 girlfriends and make them one, you know, which I did in my first book more. This book, not so much. I mean, these characters are kind of established, and you know, I usually am very annoyed by myself and my writing after I've been done with it and rewritten, and you do so much editing. And this book, I have to say, I do believe is funny and and it's the best book that I've written. I believe that. So hopefully somebody else thinks that too. They like to drink, my fans, but I think because I talk about drinking a lot, I think people think that I want them to be drinking when they meet me, but that's not true. And I like responsible drinking, like behave yourself when you're out drinking. It's fun to have a couple drinks, but you also need to not be slurring and to be able to stand upright. So I have a lot of fans that get very super excited to come see one of my shows or whatever, and then they'll be passed out before the show even starts. That's definitely happened at certain venues. But most fans just say we would be best friends. That's the most common thing. Or they'll say, I'm your biggest fan, I'm your biggest fan, and I'll be in the middle of Detroit, and they'll be like, what are you doing here? And it's like, performing at the Dodge Theater tonight. Why? If you were my biggest fan, obviously you would know that. I usually read pretty serious stuff because I don't like to, as a comedian, I don't like to watch a lot of stand-up, or it's very easy to ape someone else's material. It's easy to rip someone else off without intending to do so. Just like if you hang out with your girlfriends long enough, you start talking the same and you say the same expressions. So for me, for writing, I always try to steer clear of the type of book that I write. I try to read the exact opposite because I don't want to ever copy somebody, by accident, So I read heavy, Dostoevsky, like crazy stuff, especially when I'm writing. I read, Steinbeck, and I'll read F. Scott Fitzgerald if I want something light. Like, I just try to keep my brain completely separate from what I'm putting on paper, because what I'm writing down are basically thoughts of a third grader. I'd love to say that my books have some new, when people say, what's Chelsea Bang Bang about? I'd love to say, oh my God, I went to outer space and I spent 3 weeks there, but I didn't, and I don't plan on going there because it's just doesn't seem like it that appealing to me. I've thought about writing fiction, but I mean, I would not really, my life is kind of fiction. Like, who knows what's true and what's not anymore, because I have so many webs of lies that I've weaved. I have so many jokes going on people that sometimes I can't remember what the truth in reality is. So I would never really presume to be a fictional writer, because I'd rather just tell the truth as I see it. I hope anyone that reads Chelsea Bang Bang just laughs hard, and I really hope that they have a good time with it, and I hope that they're reading it out loud to their friends, and their friends are reading it out loud to each other, or they're quoting lines from it, because I know as a reader that that's the best. That's just so enjoyable. So I hope people think it's funny, and I hope they feel sorry for me and my childhood.